Y'all, my heart got broken from sliding scale. And I want to share why and how to offer this sustainably. Because one of the most common questions we get for new doulas or folks in their birth doula training is, should I offer sliding scale pricing? And this, I get why this comes up early because sliding scale touches on money and equality and access and values. This is like a really emotional topic, and it matters. And the answer is really not that simple. So let's slow this down and talk about sliding scale, because here's the truth. There is no one answer. And we always say at Babel Mia, like how you do your business is your business. But there are some crucial things that you do need to understand about sliding scale if you're thinking about offering this within your business. So as doulas, we work inside systems that obviously exclude people, or we can see the gaps, and which is why doulas exist. And so we see who is left out, and that can feel really heartbreaking, the idea of having to say no to someone if someone can't afford our full fees, and that can feel really, really heartbreaking. But we also can't burn ourselves out in the name of access. That isn't equity work, and it's not sustainable. I remember someone said it was like kind of feminist martyrdom. And I know I was called this actually fairly recently when I talked about, that I really want to make sure everybody either gets access to doula care or access to doula education. But at what expense? It can't be at the expense of keeping your business sustainable or, open, really, or like, you can't get out of debt that way. And so sliding scale pricing, it didn't come out of nowhere. It comes from radical community care models. We see this in healthcare, legal services, and this is models where people pay what they can, and those who can pay more to help kind of cover the costs for other people. And so when sliding scale is done well, like when it's supported by a structure, and it can be a really great pay model, but the structure needs support from, donations or fundraising, other institutions that are providing support, kind of, or like a steady stream of higher paying clients. And most doulas don't have that infrastructure because most of us, we are the infrastructure for our businesses. And so without that structure, that sliding scale can kind of become panic discounting. And this is really where we can see burnout happening. So let's talk about why do we feel as doulas so much pressure to discount? Because, we exist and we do our work in a culture where care work has been feminized and racialized and devalued in general. So, and most doulas are women and queer folks, non-binary folks, and many are racialized or sit in other intersections like queer or live in fat bodies. And all of us are taught that care work should be free. And, this idea that kind of like money's contaminating the sacredness of birth work. And this belief is not accidental. It's actually the patriarchy and capitalism and white supremacy doing their thing, which is devaluing the stuff that we do. And research backs this up, because we know care workers predominantly are these feminized professions, and we're paid less than equally trained professionals in male-dominated fields. Like we know this. There's so much research behind this. And racialized care workers are more likely to provide unpaid labor because of, again, systemic inequalities in this history we have. In our own Babel Mia survey, nearly 70% of doulas said they felt guilty charging full price, especially when working with marginalized clients. And that guilt is like, it's not yours, it's planted there, right? It's this idea that we do feel this kind of like shame or call to make sure that nobody goes without support. And so in order to do that, we're offering no or extremely low cost services. So just to be clear, you can provide anti-oppressive services and be charging for it. You can support families and pay your rent. Both things are allowed to exist at the same time, and they actually need to exist at the same time for this to be sustainable. And so this is where sliding scale often goes like a bit sideways or kind of like off the track here, because many doulas offer it randomly. So to a friend of a friend or someone who says they can't afford their care. And then you show up and realize the story does not match this reality. And I have lived this. Oh my gosh, y'all. I have offered reduced rate because I didn't want somebody to birth alone as a birth doula. And then I arrived to find, 2 cars in the driveway and a brand new roof on the house. Or I remember, I have lots of examples of this in my early days, but I remember one client thanked me for the discount because money was tight after their home renovations. And I went home feeling like really devastated and kind of embarrassed and disappointed because I was renting and I was a single parent and I'd undercut myself for someone who chose to not prioritize my work financially. And this is why boundaries matter and actually having a clear system. So sliding scale without structure. So that's where you just like put it on your website and it's just kind of like self-report. And this is where it can harm you and your business. So if you are going to offer sliding scale, it does need some sort of intention, like clear tiers or limits on how many reduced fee clients you can take, a simple intake process, or, kind of this like transparency around it instead of just providing exceptions on a case-by-case basis. Because saying yes out of like kind of like panic or scarcity is not community care. That's really just like your trauma response. And you're not alone if you've been there. As I say, I've done this so many times where someone's like, oh, I really want this. And like, I think what you're doing is great, but I can't pay you. And it's all relative, right? So sliding scale is not the only way to increase access, which I've learned over the years. So you can offer group classes to increase access. You can offer digital education, so something you create once and you can provide over and over again to folks that would otherwise not be able to afford your services. You can have pay it forward funds. So your paying clients have like $100 tacked on to their invoice and you let them know that this is going into a fund. And once that fund has your full rate, then you provide free or low cost that, to families in need. Or you can have donor backed care. So if you have a client who really loved your care and they could potentially pay for a portion of somebody else's, that you put that forward. Because I know I served lots of very wealthy clients and they were like, oh, tell us how we can help. And I always put that forward as an option. Like if you can pay some, amount, and then I'm able to support somebody with no or low income. And so there's so many ways that you can, have your values built into your business and have it be sustainable, because this is the part that's, often skipped in doula trainings. Because if your work isn't sustainable, you can't keep doing it. Like it requires you to be able to serve all of these folks. And you have to think about, your childcare and your parking and, pet care. That's my new normal. I'm out of the childcare now that my daughter is off to college. But now I have a dog and alone, like that normally my daughter would take care of. So now every client, I have to assume that there's this $100 that needs to be added. And so if I'm doing no or low cost care, it means I have this gap there. And just, I want to just keep repeating this, like burnout and exhaustion, it is not a badge of honor. You deserve to stay here. You deserve rest. You deserve to thrive, all of these things, because we give so much as birth doulas. It's so much physical care and emotional care and, a lot of the logistics we have to figure out being on call. And so sliding scale is not bad. It can be, beautiful and transformative for your business, but it is not the only path to equity. And it's not the right fit for every doula at every stage. So as we talked about having these really clear systems set up, those are something you do need to have before you can be providing that or offering that sliding scale option on your website. Okay, so there was a lot you can see here that is around boundaries and, really setting up your business in a sustainable way. And so in the next video, we're going to talk about what you are not responsible for as a doula, which will lighten the load, which is really great, because understanding this will really support you being able to take more clients and preventing burnout. So we will see you in the next video.